and many participants have joined. So good morning to all the members. So I welcome for this 50-second webinar we've been conducting in the IETE. So I thank Anupam Tiwari sir. He has come forward to take his second lesson. So we have the Professor Kishan Rao sir as chief guest. He has been the advisor to our IETE Hyderabad Center. You all have been seeing him. He's a regular attendance attendee for our webinars. So I thank the Murali sir, the distinguished fellow and the senior IETN, who have also joined with us. I thank all the members and students and faculty members who are with us in making this program very successful. So today we have very good topic. Tiwari sir is going to Anupam Tiwari sir is going to take. See, mostly in the earlier days, when we join in the engineering college, when we come out from the engineering college, or when we join in Somalia, they used to teach us the importance of power system. When you're using some costly equipment and all, what are the precautions to be taken about the power supplies? What are the basics about the power supply? So what are the how pipes, what are the fluctuations, how to protect the equipment from the fluctuations? So nowadays, I found the students who are coming out from the college, they don't know what are the Indian standards of the electrical system, what is the voltage, what is the US system, how the fluctuations will come. So those things, I think, this is a very important topic. I'm feeling this is very useful to mostly younger generation, younger engineers and all. So very good topic Tiwari sir has chosen. So I thank the Tiwari sir on behalf of IT Hyderabad Center for taking this topic. And with this, I hand over to sir. Thank you all for making this program very successful. Please, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ganesh Garu, for your nice welcome address. And once again, welcome all of you for this 31st knowledge sharing session and also 50-second webinar of our Hyderabad section. Our Hyderabad IET Center is the second largest center, and which is consisting around 2,500 plus members, and also 90 ISFs, and which are 40 plus are active. And also we are continuously conducting the various technical programs to impart the technical education among the members as well as the students. So today I welcome today's chief guest, Kishan Rao Garu, who is a very senior member and ex-director of NIT Warangal. And thank you, sir. Thank you for sparing your valuable time.
Thank you.
And you are the regular speaker. All the webinars you are attending, sir. Really great to you, sir. And also I welcome today's speaker, Adarsh Tiwari Garu, and for your sparing your valuable time for your second webinar for our IIT Hyderabad Center, and shows your love and affection about IIT Hyderabad Center. Thank you so much, sir. So now I request Sangamkar sir to read out the profile of today's chief guest, Kishan Rao Garu.
Thank you, Namashivaya Garu. It is a privilege to read the profile of Dr. Kishan Rao. Perhaps he is known to most of the students and they will enjoy today listening him once again. He has made their career, I am sure. He is born on 5th April 1943. Presently, he is professor of Electronics and Communication Engineering at Srinathi Institute of Science and Technology. His research interests are in the areas of wireless communication, signal processing application, and cooperative mobile communication. His academic and research achievements are: he was head problem-oriented research lab. He served as head electronics and computer science engineering at REC Warangal. He was the chief warden at REC Warangal. He was the dean student affairs at REC Warangal, dean academic affairs at REC Warangal, principal REC Warangal, and he was a principal at JITS Narsapet also. And subsequently he joined as a principal in KITS Warangal, and also he served as a director Vagdevi Group of Technical Institute Warangal. He has conducted STTP about 5 numbers, research projects completed 5 numbers. He has guided 88 MTech students. He has guided 10 PhD students. His research publication include 126 publications. In that, 56 were national and 68 publications were in the international. Research scholar and PhDs under his guidance at presently are 5 numbers. published 7 textbooks, and their titles are, I'm going to read them briefly. Performance Analysis of WCDMA System with High-Speed Networks. Publisher Lambert, Germany. This book has been co-authored with Dr. M. Sushant Babu. Then second book is Modified Clustering Algorithm and their Performance for WSNS, and again publisher is Lambert Academic, Germany. And this book is co-authored along with Professor B. Brahma Reddy. And third book is Spectral Efficiency Analysis in Multi-User MIMO OFDM LTE Systems, again published by Lambert Academic, Germany, co-authored along with Dr. Pateti Krishna, Professor Diparthi Anil Kumar. Fourth book is Performance Analysis of Blind Signal Separation Algorithm, publisher Lambert Academic, Germany, co-authored along with Dr. Janardha Anumula. Fifth book, Energy Efficient Routing Techniques Using Cooperative Algorithms for Wireless Ad Hoc Networks, publisher Lambert Academic, co-authored along with Dr. Ramadevi Bodu and Professor Asha Rani M.
JNT.
Sixth book is Analog and Pulse Circuits, published by BR Publications, New Delhi, co-authored along with C.B. Ramarao and D. Lakshmaya. Seventh book, Analog Communication Principles and Concepts, publisher Apple Academic Press, Palm Bay, Florida, co-authored along with P. Krishna, T. Anil Kumar, and Manju Khari. He has won several awards, among them 2 gold medals from Osmania University for standing first in BE examination in the year 1966. He is a distinguished alumni of ECE department of Osmania University in the 1984. Best Teacher Award he received from AP government in the year 1999. AP Scientist Award of APSCOT in 2001. Engineers and Scientists Award of SBH again in 2001. His other contributions include, he was the chairman of AICTE committees for inspection of technical institutions during 1994 to 2001. He was the academic senate member of Kakatiya University, Warangal from 2006 to 2007. He was the chairman IET Subcenter Warangal from 2006 to 2008. He was a member academic advisor committee, Maulana Azad National University, Hyderabad from 2007 to 2008. He was the vice chairman IET Hyderabad chapter from 2011 to 2012. President OUECE AA from 2009 to 2012. His other awards and honors include Senior Life Member IEEE USA, Life Member FIET New Delhi, Life Member ISTE New Delhi, Life Member ISOI India, Life Member and Fellow of TS Academy of Sciences, Hyderabad. He has visited several countries that include UK University Leeds at Leeds Metropolitan, Huddersfield University, UMI ST as a part of UK REC ODA project in November 1997 for 2 weeks. Visited Singapore and Malaysia during 12th to 20th July 1999 to present 2 technical papers at IPOH, Malaysia, and chaired one of the technical session at International Conference on Robotics, Vision and Parallel Processing for Automation. Yes, sir, please. July 99, IPOH, Malaysia. Sir, with this illustrious background, I think perhaps everybody knows your contribution. I think with this, I hand over the chair to Nali Namashwar to carry forward the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, thank you once again, Krishna Rao Garu, for your
Thank you.
about our IIT Hyderabad Center. We know that one you are very regular participating, not only in webinars. Whenever you are coming, you will always come to the IIT Hyderabad Center, sir. Thank you very much. And now I request you kindly address our participants.
Yeah. Good morning to all of you. The chairman of IIT Warangal Center and the Hyderabad one. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Guneshwara Garu, chairman. Sitaram Rao Garu, vice chairman. Nuri Narasimhaya, Secretary Garu, Professor G.R. Babu, and other executive members of IETE Hyderabad Center. The other dignitaries who are present here for this webinar session. And today's speaker, Tiwari, we have accepted to deliver the webinar talk today. Very good morning to all of you. In fact, it is an honor for me to preside over the function today. You know, IET is half late has become very famous for conducting so many webinar, sessions. I think it is a record as far as our country is concerned. Because of that, many people are getting benefited, and we should thank the executive for that. In fact, there is a talk saying that one of my friend from Nagpur telephoned. You know, how is that they are managing every week to conduct the webinar one? That's what they were asking. I said our executive is very young and talented, and they are very dynamic in organizing this. No, you better talk to them and find out how they are able to do it. So, that's what I told them. You know, because Nagpur I know Professor One, so I told him that. So in fact, I'm very grateful for the center because of the activity that is being conducted, and because of them only, IET Hyderabad Center only, we could open another center at Warangal. In fact, fortunately, I was the first chairman of that one, and all the help was rendered by IET Hyderabad Center to get the center started at Warangal. So we should be very thankful to that. At that time, you know, in fact, Professor D. Chidlu and other people were the chairman of the Hyderabad Center. They did a lot of work to get the center at Warangal. So that time I was at REC Warangal. That's why I'm very grateful to the center. So, in fact, these webinars are going to be helpful for not only for the teachers, also for the students. Yes, so many things are there in the textbooks and other things, but to know what exactly being done, if they want to pursue some research, particularly faculty member or students want to do some dissertation, they should attend these webinars and find out, interact with the people. That's what I could see, that it is very helpful for the students as well as the teachers who are pursuing research. In fact, that is how it is going to be helpful, and this information I'm conveying to all the research scholars, whoever has met me, you know, for doing the, the MTech dissertations or PhD research. I'm telling them you better attend these webinars and to find out what exactly being done. For example, in the radar systems, Professor Singh has given so many details. In fact, I myself don't know about that. We never studied those things. Similarly, other systems also there. So many things are there. We don't know. And in fact, I should congratulate the IETE group in Hyderabad for choosing these speakers. You know, most of the speakers are either from defense labs or in established R&D centers or established institutions who are famous by their academic activities. So that way, let us, we are very thankful to IET executive body for selecting the speakers for such occasion. It is not normal coming there. Let us give them a big hand. I request all of you to give a big hand to the executive committee of the IUC Hyderabad Center. So, the executive is very
even. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. So the material covered will be very exhaustive. That's why it is. In fact, I'm very thankful to IET Center. So with these few words, I request the today's speaker for accepting the invitations and making it available to deliver lecture on high voltage standards, protection and mitigation of electronic systems. This is a power systems problem. It is a really good topic because the protection is also there and also the mitigation in electronic systems, how it is going to do. It is going to be very interesting now. And I request many students to come forward to attend these webinars, as well as the teachers who want to pursue research in that particular field. Because the IIT center is already announcing it at least 3 to 4 days before. It is not difficult for the students or teachers to make arrangement to attend this program. It is not difficult. And added to that, we are very fortunate that no money is asked for that, for registration fee. There is no registration fee. It is free. Whereas so many webinars are there from other institutions where they are charging minimum 400 rupees or 500 rupees like that. It is free here. So they should take advantage. Let us, I request all the members who are present here to propagate this idea to members and their students, their faculty members, their colleagues to attend these webinars and take the advantage of the technical in details. So I once again thank the Executive Committee of IETE for giving me this opportunity to just address, a few points. Thank you very much for all the committee members. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kishan Rao Garu, for your nice words and also for your appreciation of our IIT Hyderabad Center. Thank you so much, sir. Now I request
one more point I want to add.
cooperative DC member
one more point
V.
I want to
Ramarao
add.
Garu to read out the.
Sir,
Yeah, please.
No, just 1 minute. 1 minute.
Sir, 1 minute, sir. Namaskar, 1 minute.
1 minute, just to Sangamagaru. See the publications, whatever he listed here in my books, all the 5 textbooks are based on the PhD research work.
Yes, sir. Yes,
5 textbooks are based on the PhD research work that is being carried out by the student. Yes. Remaining are general. That's what is given.
Yeah, that's very good,
Okay.
sir. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Excellent,
That's all.
sir. Excellent.
Yes.
They are original, in fact, we can say.
Yeah, that is there. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, I request our Dr. V. Ramarao Garu, our cooperative DC member, to read out the profile of today's speaker, Sri Mr. Anupam Tiwari.
Thank you, Namastevaya, and good morning to ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to read out the profile of Engineer Anupam Tiwari Garu. He is already well known to the webinarists of Hyderabad Center because this is his second address.
Third, sir. Third.
Sorry, third. So he is already well known. Only it's a formality that I read the profile. Let me go through that formality. Engineer Anupam Tiwari graduated from the Assam Engineering College in 1996 in electrical engineering, in which batch he topped the batch with honors. He is a certified and licensed power engineer from Central Electrical Authority, Government of India, to operate, maintain thermal power plants and associated switchgear of 100 megawatts and above ratings. A green volunteer, IIEE, New Delhi, with MSc in disaster mitigation from Sikkim Manipal University. He was appointed as Radiation Safety Officer Level 1 from BARC, Mumbai, for nuclear emergencies during the period 2004 to 2010. He was elected as a fellow IETE in 2006. He received MTech Modeling and Simulation in 2009 from Defense Institute of Advanced Technology, Delhi University. But Delhi University Pune, how it is? It is Pune University Pune, I suppose. During MTech at CIAT-DU, he was associated with DRDO points training and took classes in avionics to about 400 young scientists of B level. Till date, he published papers on antennas, fractal applications, mobile communications, aviation maintenance management, safety issues in reputed journals and several international and national conferences. In the field of aeronautical engineering, he had received a PG diploma in aeronautical engineering in 1998, and he is having 20 years of field experience in the line. He is associated with Bell Bangalore with its mobile communications equipment installation and with network wireless technologies pan-India implementation. He was nominated twice for Dr. Beren Roy Award of Aeronautical Engineering, Aeronautical Society of India for his effort on indigenization. He is very passionate towards teaching, training, and learning. His areas of interest are modeling, simulation, antennas, radar, communications, wireless and computer networks, power systems, cyber security, and avionics. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I share my slides now?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, Ramarao Garu. And once again, welcome all of you for this today's webinar, and also all of you greetings on the occasion of World Wi-Fi Day. Only due to this Wi-Fi Day only, because you all doing such a type of wonderful works actually. So now I request Tiwari Garu to.
Once again, good morning to all. I thank all IIT Hyderabad members to giving me this opportunity of 50-second knowledge sharing webinars. And basically, this is already paper is published in 50-second midterm symposium at IIT Mumbai. So the topic high voltage mitigation, safety and standards for electronics is very important for all the electronics engineers. Now, what is high voltage? And what are the sources of high voltage? Now, in terms of what we say electronics, the high voltage is if the voltage is more than 1000 volt, or in AC it is 1500 volts. And there are very small electrostatic discharges which are also classified as high voltage for electronics. But there are high voltage power supplies to the power amplifier. And as we know that lightning induction and lightning associated surges, switching surges, they're all classified as high voltage. Now, how to mitigate? The topic is divided into what is high voltage and how mitigation is there and what all the standards. So the topic is divided into three aspects. So we'll discuss the mitigation and what all the safety standards are there. Now there is lightning electromagnetic pulse, which we call as LEMP, and there are man-made also, which we call as nuclear EMP. So they are the source of very, very high voltages fluctuations in electronic systems. And there are electrical overstresses, which may be due to the switching surges or what we say the impulse which is inducted by these power systems, which is on longer duration. And there are very short phenomena which is called as electrostatic discharge. We will discuss in detail. They also impose very, very high voltages to a very short duration for electronic circuits. So switching surges basically are from the power systems. And if we see the high voltage supplies to the electronic systems, like RF amplifier of 350 kilowatt, the voltage is given to the cathode is 55 kV. And low noise amplifier, the voltage to the cathode is 3 kV. Similarly, there are many CRO tubes in labs, in lab instruments where the high voltage supplies are given. And there are many medical instruments also which are energized by high voltage. So if we see, there are many sources of high voltage which is man-made, which is during the power, which is due to the power supplies, which is due to the energization of cathode. So that is why it is very important to know what all we can do, how to protect ourselves. So high voltage can be classified in terms of transmission, in terms of safety. Like once we say transmission, so there are high voltages 11 kV, 33 kV, 132 kV, 220 kV, 400 kV. So, and in case of DC, it is 500 plus minus DC. But once we come for the safety aspect, so 1000 volt is for DC and 1500 volts for AC. Now here, this is a one classical example where, okay, the panel is struck by high voltage lightning and its effects. So what all parameters, whenever we are designing any electronics equipment, what all parameters of lightning strike is important. So first is lightning current amplitude, which decides the resistive effects. Second is average steepness, that means it is a derivative of lightning current with respect to time. It determines the resistive and magnetic coupling effects. And third is total charge, which is an integral of current. So it is measured in coulombs. So it determines the energy where this lightning has struck. And the fourth parameter is what is called as action integral. So which is measured in megajoules per ohm and determines the heating and electrodynamic effects along the down conducting path. So these are the four basic effects of lightning. So what happens if this lightning strikes at aircraft? So this is the two pictures wherein the lightning strike had damaged the structure, and this is the nose wherein the lightning has entered, and entire circuit, this is the where the lightning is exited. So if the lightning protection is not sufficient in our structures like in aircraft, so it will damage the structure. So if we classify the surge voltage with respect to time, so ESD is here. Time is very less, 1.1 microsecond, and voltage is from 10 to some 100 kV. And this is switching surge, and this is the lightning induction surge. This is the directing lightning stroke. So what is this 8 by 20 or 10 by 350? So the first is the rise time of the impulse, and the second is the fall time. So now if we say 10 by 350 microsecond, that means the pulse rise time is 10 microsecond, and the tail of that pulse is 350 microsecond. So what is this load dump? So whenever there is the sudden load throw off, so definitely it will develop some surge voltage. So that is called as load throw off, and which gives a load dump. So this is the effect of lightning if it is not mitigated. So how this PCB is burned, you can see on the slide. And these are the internal damages of overstresses, like the burnt metal, the open connection, the heat stresses which imposed by what we discussed, the action integral, and the melted bond wire. If we see in the electronic system, so what we have to do? So we have to first see the sources of high voltages, and then we have to develop the standards like MIL standards. MIL 1660 is ESD, 1686 is the ESD control, MIL 883 is ESD control here. This is specifically for avionics, and this is EMI EMC. So lightning has effects on direct as well as indirect. So EMC is an example, EMI and EMC is an example of indirect effect, which is very important for the military equipments. Now if we see the automotive, industry, and here is that antenna also. So how that ESD suppression is there. So I want students to focus this slide, how we have to suppress the ESD for the automotive application. So if we see the indirect effect, which is very important for military appliances or military equipment, so we have to do the emission enclosure and emission conducted, and how we have to give immunity towards conducted and enclosure. So on the slide, if you see here, it is immunity, and here is the emission, and if you see on the y-axis, enclosure and conduction. So there are various effects, what we say couplings effect. So how we have to do the mitigation and give the mitigation by immunity as well as by conduction immunity as well as by the induction immunity. So this slide is very important for those who want to design EMI EMC. I want student to focus this slide. Now, if we see what is low voltage and high voltage, and how the various countries have defined low voltage and high voltage, like Canada has defined low voltage from 110 to 240, and for industries it is 600 to 1000 volts. We have discussed. Now, what are the effects, injuries, because these high voltages may also affect if we touch the high voltage sources, there are some burnings, some respiratory arrest, so there are cardiac arrest. So if the touch potential we'll discuss in later is more, so it may affect humans badly. So this is how you can see the lightning strike. It happens on ground, or if it happens on human body. Now I'll discuss one first example. As we know that now in this modern era, the aircraft, what we say usage in transportation is increasing, and the threat of lightning is also there. So though it is protected, but we have to understand what all threats it is imposed on aviation. Like the 90% of discharge of it is negative discharge, and 10% is the positive discharge. And aircraft, like big aircraft, they triggers the lightning cloud. That means the charges are already there in the cloud, and they are the big rod type of discharger as an act. So the entry point and exit point is sure. At times the entry will happen from the nose, and exit will from others, or entry will happen from the tail, which is the highest point, and exit may happen from the nose. But it all affects the avionics of the system. So in this lightning strike, if you see, various impulses are there. Some are sinusoidal, some are with deep, what you say, long, short. So these are the typical lightning waves which are available while the aircraft is struck by the lightning. Now, if we see the avionics system, this is taken from the FAA handbook. So this lightning strikes give adverse effect on the engine, the FADAC system, or the communication system. So it is published that out of 214 strikes on commercial aircraft, so what all is affected and what all systems was the outage. Like the maximum, if we see, the compass was out in 9 times out of 214 strikes. So VHF communication is out by 3 times. HF communication is out by 5 times. This is the published study by FAA. So nowadays a tanker is also used for refueling, and it is carrying a huge amount of fuel, like 110. So this A330 is MTTR fuel tanker. So now if we have to design this aircraft to save from the strike, so definitely the standards with the what we say the normal aircraft may be the different. Now how we check these lightning strike? So there are some standards like DO 160 section 23, which gives the direct effects, and DO 160 section 22, which gives indirect effect. And if there is a near strike, that means the strike is not near on the aircraft but near the aircraft, so the standards is 464. And these are the high voltage labs where the scaled or full models are tested for lightning strikes. So CABS, DRDO lab is having this facility in India. Now in that lab, how these radomes and the other models are tested. Now if you see this diagram, here the maximum impulse voltage generator is there. So this is called as max generator. So now this waveform is trailered as per the rise and fall time what we have discussed, and this is the voltage divider, and then actual strike is given to the modeled aircraft or scaled aircraft or 1-to-1 scale of the radome if you want to see. And now we have to check whether that standard is followed or not. So this is how the avionics is tested in high voltage lab. Now if we see, there are various waveforms. Waveforms are classified as waveform A, B, C, D. We will discuss in next slide. However, various EMI, EMC is measured on the full scale of aircraft. How that EMI, EMC standards are followed. So this is the source where EMI, EMC is generated, and this is the actual aircraft where it is tested. So now how these waveforms are classified. So component A, B, C, D, and H. So if you see this short pulses, they are the H component, and if you see this peak, so this is component A, and then next this is component B, and here is the component C, and here is the component D. So D has two parts. One is this pulse and a series of pulses. So that means all these pulses are available in lightning strike. So if we have to clear any avionic system, we have to impose all types of waveform, and then only this is cleared. So now if we plot waveform A, waveform D, waveform A, its rise time, fall time. So this is how every waveform is depicted. Now a little mathematics, though the lightning is defined in terms of double exponential function. So now this is double exponential function. So ET is k times E naught bracket e to the power minus alpha t minus e to the power minus beta t. So where k is constant and alpha beta are the parameters which will control rise and fall time. So now typical alpha is 4 into 10 to the power 7 and beta is 6 into 6 into 10 to the power 8. And E naught is the peak strength which is greater than 50 kV per meter. So now this double exponential function which was used earlier has now been changed by Hellier's function because of some shortcomings in this double exponential function. Now this is the detailed current. So what is the new in this Hellier's function? So it has its first derivative 0, and it is not it is concave rising. So these are the two, what you say, drawbacks in double exponential function. So IEC, that means in that standards 62305 uses Haldier function for real lightning stroke. So what is grounding and why grounding and bounding is done? So first of all, equipment is to be protective because equipment is very, very costly and it will save our asset. And if you don't follow the proper grounding or bounding, so warranty requirement will be lapsed. That means manufacturer recommends that if your equipment is to be bounded or grounding, so you have to do as per the recommender's recommendation. And the system performance, which is an operational requirement, is very important. Now, if your grounding and bonding is not proper, your performance of the system will go. Some of the outages it will happen. So yeah, now if you're a service provider, now if you don't ground your equipment or your bonding is not proper, so outages will be more. So there is an interrupt in service, and not the least the personal safety, which is very, very important if the system is not grounded or bonded properly. So there are various standards which say that all the equipments of AC, DC, high voltages to be grounded. Now, how this high voltage can be protected? First of all, shielding is a very common method. Then we have to do grounding, bonding, and electronic hardening, which is a very, very specialized electronics, which is used mainly for space application where the radiation is more. And in case of what you say, sophisticated electronics, surge protection devices are very important, and they comes in the flavor of AC surge protection, DC or RF. Lightning protection is also very important for high raised building, and the electrical overstresses and electrical switching impulses is very common in power system. So in India, the earthing system, what is defined by BS 7671 standards. So we use TNS system. What is this TNS? T is earth, N is neutral, S is spaced, C is combined, and I is isolated. So this is how one line and one neutral, and this is a protective earth. So we in India use TNS system of power system. So India uses TNS power system. Neutral is double grounded at distribution transformer, and neutral and earth run separately on distribution overline or inside the cable. So, but if you see other developed countries in Europe, they use TNS-CS system. Canada also uses TNS-CS system. However, France, Italy, Japan uses TT earthing system. So why we want to learn this various earthing system? Because if you are procuring any electrical equipment from what you say outside, we have to understand that what all earthing system is required at that system. So there are various advantages and disadvantages as shown in the slide. So if we see the advantages of what we have adopted in India, TNS system. So earth fault loop current is low. It is a safer. EMI, which is called as electromagnetic interference, is low. It doesn't require earth electrode at site, and the system could work with simple over current protection. That means if we have to only install over current protection. And what are the disadvantages? Like it has low power factor, requires extra equal potential bonding, and on occurrence of insulation fault, the short circuit current is high, and it may damage the equipment, or the EMI, electromagnetic disturbance, will increase. Now the typical earth values for power system is 0.5 ohm, major substation is 1, and minor substation is 2, neutral bushing where the conductor is terminator is 2 ohms. So LT, which is low terminal lightning arrestor, is 4 ohms. So these are the typical values of various ART system. So if we see the RF protection, which is very important for antenna and communication, so there the lambda by 4 RF protection is used. So a wavelength less than signal within the RF coaxial cable, we use one lambda by 4 surge protector. So its application is matching is 50 ohm, and the coaxial line of RF is from which application is from 2 to 6 gigahertz, and maximum is 300 kilowatts, and the Imax, what is called as impulse maximum, is 50 kiloampere, and in I-in, that means the normal discharge is I-in, which is 25 kiloampere, which gives grounding to 8 by 20 microsecond, 10 pulses at 30 intervals. So the residual energy, which is an action integral, so with this waveform 8 by 20, typically the current is from 4 or 2 kiloampere. So insertion loss is 0.2 dB, and return loss of this RF surge protection device is 20 dB approximately. And the connectors can be used as NJAC, and the ingress protection, which is IP65 or IP20 as a touch potential. So that means whenever we are installing any surge protector in RF application, so we have to see all these parameters. So this is the waveform 5A. We have discussed all waveform A, B, C, and H. So the 5A is defined as 40 by 120 microsecond, which is a resistive coupling through a composite structure. And 5B, which is 50 by 500 microsecond, which models resistor coupling through aluminum structures. So why this the modeling is different? Because if your structure is composite, so different waveform is required to test, and if the structure where your electronics is there is aluminum, so different waveform is required. So these are the typical class and type of SPD. So SPDs is surge protection device. They are classified as class and type. So what if we say type 1? Type 1 is given by 10 by 350 microsecond current waveform, and type 2 SPD is by 8 by 20 microsecond current waveform. And if we say it is a type 3 SPD, that means it is a combination of voltage and current, and voltage is 1.2 microsecond by 50 microsecond, and current is 8 by 20. So whenever we are putting any SPD, we have to see which type and which class. Now if we see class A is for the direct lightning, class B is for indirect effects or surges, and class 3C is for sensitive equipment. Now these surge protector devices, they come in this AC, ABC phase, and this is protective earth, and this is the neutral. And it also comes if there is plus minus DC. Now it may have color indication, like if you see top figure, so all are green, that means every phase is protected. Now if there is something red, visual protection, so it means that surge protection is out. So there are different standards and different combinations what we can use for the direct stroke and for the indirect stroke, like this IEC 61643-11-2011. So for if we for direct stroke T1, For indirect stroke, we can take type 2, type 3. So these are the waveform, like 10 by 350, 8 by 20, and this is the combination, which the first combination is for voltage and second is for the current. So type 1, type 2, type 3 we have already discussed. So type 1 basically is a typical 10 by 350 microsecond protection, which is usually by the spark gap technology. However, the type 2 technology is metal oxide varioster, which will give protection from 8 by 20 microsecond current. And type 3, which is a combination of voltage 1.2/50 microsecond and current of 8 by 20. It is a combination protection. So this is used inside the building. So we will discuss which type of protection is used where in terms of lightning zones. So how these are tested? Like if we see IEC 61643-2011 standards for SPD, and the varioster is there. So if for the normal current, which is IN, there are 19 impulses which is imposed on that SPD. So if these 19 strokes which consist of positive, negative, 15 impulses of synchronized at 30 degree of 50 hertz, one positive and one negative. So if we say that this is protected with respect to IEC 61643-11 standard, so these test sequence are performed on the SPD. Similarly, if I said the type 1 SPD after 15 impulses, so these are the impulse voltages or current which is imposed for checking of the standards. So these are the few electronics component like gas filled discharge tube, air gap, surge relays, carbon gap, Zener diode, circuit breakers, fuse, and MOV, which is called as metal oxide varistors. They are used for the surge protectors. Now, electrostatic discharge (ESD) caused by human is also one of the effect which is very important for while these humans are working on the equipment for repair. So ESD also imposes a very high over voltage transits, and it is so small, but so the peak is so large, it will damage the sensitive electronics. These are the few standards of ESD, like automotive industries have different standards, aviation have different standards, commercial IEC standards, medical devices, and military. That means every industry have its own specific standards because the requirements are different. Now, for military and aerospace circuits protection, I'll flash some of the important, and I want to give some time for the student to see this standard. Like suppose if I say MIL standards 1275 for the vehicles, so 50 microsecond, then 100 volt, and the current is 200 amperes, and the effect is surge. Like every standards where aircraft, helicopter, shipborne, or vehicles. So what is the time? What is the impulse? What is the frequency? Like in this, the frequency is 1 megahertz ripple voltage, what we say. This is the voltage, this is the current, and this is the level 4 protection. So whenever we are doing the checking of the standard, we have to see with respect to the application. So these are the various waveforms already we have discussed, and how they are generated in the lab. They are generated by the max generator. Now this is the diagram of a max generator. So stages of this, now this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 stage max generator. So how does this stage varies? Now if the voltage level requires more, so ultimately these stages will increase. So this is the right, this is how it is shown. This is the tail waveform and this is the rise. So now 10 by 350. So this is a switching impulse and this is the direct effect. 8 microsecond rise time and 20 is the fall time. Similarly, if we see the MIL standards 1753 ARP 5412 for aircraft, so these are the A, B, C and D waveforms. So here this component A is initial stroke, component B is intermediate stroke, component C is continuous one. That means it starts from this to this, and this is the restrike. The component D is the restrike. So these are the few voltages which is there. Like it is not only the one-sided, but it is two-sided also, and this is the sinusoidal also. So this is called as damped sinusoidal test voltage, which is also called as a ripple voltage. So this is how the bundled conductor or the pins are tested in the avionics with a different waveform. Like if we see this voltage waveform 2, 0.1 and 0.3 is the rise time, 6.4 microsecond is the fall time, and it is a voltage impulse, and it is imposed on cable bundled single stroke and cable bundled multiple stroke. So what is the standard? Standard is RTCA DO 160 section 22. So that means every equipment is to be tested with different waveform and with the different standards, single stroke or multiple stroke. This we have already discussed. So this we have already discussed how the lightning has a multiple and different strokes. So now the next is shielding. What is shielding? Shielding is also a very important once we are communicating anything through the cable. So if we see the cable, it is the conductor is only this much, then insulators, then this is a sheath. So now this before in between the sheath there is a one metallic jacket which is shielding. So any induction, so this shielding will not allow to propagate inside the conductor. So this is how the bonding is done. So bonding is done between the racks of the electronics equipment. Like this roof is bonded with the rack. So different connections between the different racks, and this is the combined how the different racks is taken with the communication equipment bonding main conductor. This is how the grounding is done in the electronics equipment, where the different electronics equipments are there, and this is how we have to do the labeling also, so that someone will not open this. So whenever we are doing any grounding as per this NPFA 70 standards, so we have to see these grounding rods minimum height is what we say the depth is 8 feet, and between the rods where we are doing the grounding, the minimum is 1.8 meters. So whenever we are installing any grounding system, so what conductor, AGC, American gauge wire, or what is the dimension, how much it's to be inside the ground, everything we have to consider. So whenever the grounding is there, so now we have to test that whether that grounding is there. So fall of potential is the very easy method, wherein this is the earth tester. So these leads are there, and we can see directly on the meter that what is the resistance. Normally for high electronics equipment, we would demand less than 1 ohm resistance of earth pit. So, but if you see some of the electronics installation, so what is done? So all the telecom equipment which is 1 ohm lane less, lightning arrestor which is the requirement is 10 ohm, and power system which is requirement is 5 ohm. They are connected like this. So this is a wrong practice. So whenever we have to ground different equipment in a same building, so the grounding of different equipment should be different, and you may do parallel grounding of telecom, and you may form a grid of telecom grounding together, but this is not a good practice. So this is very common to save grounding. People do this, which is very which is not accurate method of grounding. So, but how to check whether the grounding and the connection is proper or not, or where some leakage current is going on? So there are different what you say equipment available like earth leakage clamp, meter. So if you put that meter in that grounding system, so it will read automatically the what is the grounding of that equipment, what is the earth resistance of that equipment. So now if I will give you one more example, like equipment A and equipment B. Now if that grounding, both are grounded, but because there is a potential difference. So current here is 1 ampere, current here is 1 ampere. So here the grounding requirement is 10 ohm, and here the grounding requirement is 5 ohm. So there will be the potential difference of 5 volts. So this 5 volt will drive one more current, which is continuous, and which may damage your equipment. So that is why we have to isolate the grounding of the two different equipments. Now let me touch a very important concept of step and touch potential. So in power system, this is very important for the safety purpose. So if there is some fault, now if that grounding is not proper, so whenever somebody is touching that structure, so that is called as touch potential. And if the ground fault is there and somebody is moving, so that is called as step potential. So we always see in power system the touch potential and step potential should be minimum for the safety of humans. And there is a common mode and different mode of voltages, which is to be protected by a surge protector in electronics equipment. So this is how the SPD will chop the maximum voltage, but however this residual voltage will be there, which is not so harmful. So this is the SPD for 3-phase, and this is SPD for the RF equipment. Now, as we know that satellites are there, space electronics is there. So there is a constant solar storms and constant radiations from the solar effects are there. So their electronics is different with respect to the normal electronics. So these electronics are electronics hardening. So this is how typical example wherein the electronics hardening is done for the PN junction. So this is the reference from the paper which is shown here. So here, if we see, if we have to design electronics to cater for this radiation strike, otherwise our space electronics will not survive. So whenever we have to design an application, electronics design for space application or for nuclear protection, we have to go for radiation hardening design. So this is how the Scandala CMOS7 technology, this is taken from the internet, wherein they have changed the design of 24 mask level with 5 metal layers, which will protect from radiation. So there are few terms which is called as radiation hardness assurance, which is very important parameter for space electronics. So these are the standards which will give the certification that this electronic is RHA. So lightning protection can also be installed in various fashion, like single lightning strike system, like wire. This is a lightning wire. So a ground wire is there. Now this is protected. So this is a single lightning arrestor which will protect in a cone fashion. So whenever we are designing any electronics building, so we have to see, we have to first design the lightning protection zone. The outside is called as LP0, and LP0 is also divided into A and B. And the innermost, what is called as lightning protection zone 3, there resides the sensitive electronics. So whenever we have to pass some communication cables or some electrical supplies to this electronic sensitive equipment, these are the surge protectors which are required in the zones. So whenever we are designing any building where a sophisticated equipment is to be resided, we have to design not only that equipment protection, but we have to define the zone protection, which is normally not what you say designed while designing the equipment. So this is how the wind turbine, the zones are there. So every zone has a different class of protection. Like power, SPD of power line is 690 volt. SPD again of different zone of power line is 230 volt. So that means zone 0 is outside, zone 2 is inside, and now zone 1 is. So whenever we design any electronic or electrical equipment, first of all we have to see what are the zones and what type of SPD is required at that particular zone. Now if we see the zones of aircraft, so aircraft also has most of the avionics part is at nose, engine FedEx system is here. So again this is the, so here also zones are defined. So now my question is why this standard is required to be vibrant. That means why we want these requirements to be changed, because though we see that all the standards to be revised in 5 years or max to 10 years. However, if any accident is there in any aircraft or any building, so it may come before that also. Like one of the classic example of 787 Dreamliner, it was certified for lightning strike in 2011. However, in December 2018, Again, the Dreamliner aircraft is redesigned for zones because of the structure changes and because of the composite and the avionics changes. This is how the current and impulse voltages are there. This is how the lightning structure is there. This type of is called as mesh, which gives the Faraday cage, and this is the lightning arrestor, which we call as air terminal. So lightning air terminal. Now, if there is a lightning counter is also there. Now, if there is a counter is increased, so what all risk it imposes? Now, near that earth pit, there may be risk of touch and step potential. So we have to check the air terminal, whether it is burnt or whether it is safe. And after that strike, we have to check all the ground conductors. And if the resistance, ground resistance is more than 10 ohm, we have to change the earth terminal. So ESD safety equipments are also available, like ESD packing, ESD mat, ESD wrist, ESD protecting clothing, ESD shoes, ESD gloves. So that means whenever we are working on a sophisticated electronics, we have to put everything ESD protected. So if we see ESD also, it has various models. This is human body model, this is machine model. So every model has different waveforms. So this is IEC 801.2. This has also a different waveform. So human body model, as we know, that human body can store a charge of 250 picofarads. So this is how the human body is modeled. So this picofarad can store 25,000 volt. So this is how, now if this because of the Tibo-electric charges, if we touch without ESD protection, then the electronics may fail. So now say suppose if you are walking on a floor, now by walking process you are developing charge, and now if you touch that electronics without ESD protection, that the discharge will happen and which will damage the electronics. So that is why whenever we are working in electronics, sophisticated electronics, multi-layered electronics, we have to compliance ESD standards. This is the typical waveform. So here are three waveform. One, this gray one is for 1000 volt HBM model. And this small peak is CDM model, and this blue is of a 8000 volt HBM model. So this is how in wireless applications such as GPS, Wi-Fi devices, antenna can act as a low impedance path for ESD. So that is why all the equipments, mobile phones, small electronics, handle electronics, all are to be tested with human body model. So this, how that EOS is different with ESD, the significant factor is time. That means EOS is millisecond. However, this ESD is microsecond. So generally the time is the major phenomena in EOS or ESD. However, EOS is a continuous. However, ESD is very, very small incident. This is how the EOS fail the electronics. The package may be bulged. You can see physically. The holes may occur in some of the PCBs, and some of that junctions they may burn. So we have already discussed the causes of EOS. And how it is protected? Now, if the conducting floor, proper grounding straps, and proper card. So there are various methods by which we can protect our electronics. This is how that standard ANSI ESD is there, the voltage and the flooring, epoxy flooring, vinyl flooring. So every flooring develops different voltages. This is the famous human body model, how that high voltage is developed by humans while doing work without protection. So this is the classification, and this is the voltage range. And this is how the event take place if you are not properly ESD compliance. So now if this IC here is without ESD, so it definitely ESD will damage this IC. However, if ESD protection is there, so now the equipment is safe. So wherever we are using sophisticated electronics, proper symbols are required, and whenever we are carrying, transporting in logistic, proper racks are required. Otherwise, due to friction also, these sophisticated electronics may be damaged. So these are the few standards like BS British standards 7430/2011, which gives the practice for protecting earthing installation. ISO standard 62305 for protection of lightning. IEEE 142 standards of 2007, which is called as Green Book for grounding of industrial and commercial system. There are few vendors like Motorola, they have defined their own standards like R56, and military have some different stringent requirements. So military always go with MIL standards. So this is the UL standards of grounding and bonding. So why we want to understand this grounding and bonding? Because every standard is different, and you cannot apply one standard with another standard equipment. So before applying any earthing or any bonding or any protection, we have to first understand the standards and origin of that country. These are a few again standards which we have discussed. So why these standards require change? Because of some, we have discussed one standards which was there in 2011 of wing lightning protection of a Dreamliner. So here the insulation cap was there, the copper foil was there, initial design. But after that accident, now they have removed this foil, copper foil, from the fuel tank. This is the fuel tank. And then the fastener here, they was insulated with the cap. Now these fasteners are gone inside the structure. So that is why these standards requires various changes as per the accident incidents or as per the industry change. Now let us summarize what we have learned. Now why this high voltage study is required? Because of the various effects on electronics. So it is modeled by impulse generator at high voltage labs. So these protection measures are required for all the electronics equipment for EMI, EMC shielding. Moreover, for the certification of any equipment, these standards are required. So once we have to give these standards, we have to check each and every equipment in lab. And why we do this? Because reliability is an issue. So though these standards are defined in 10 years, however, if some accident, incident, or there is a structural change, so we can ask for redefining of standards. So what we have learned today is high voltage, how this high voltage is safeties are required. It is for the safety of human being, safety of equipment, and reliability of operation because of this coupling effect of EMI EMC. There are various standards: IEC, NEMA, RTCA, British standards, and Indian standard also. So whenever we are taking any equipment or working on equipment, we have to see which is the standard is compliance by that equipment. And there are various mitigation techniques like grounding, bonding, zone classification, and the which type of surge protector like class and type, where to put what. So this is how we can mitigate this effect. And R&D is very important for electronics, like GaN, galvanium nitride. FET shows good immunity for the fast rising impulses. So high voltage simulation labs are required for the study, and which all waveforms are required. Now can we redefine this waveform because of the structures, composites are increasing in our equipments, and when we feel that these standards are not okay, if we encounter any accidental incidents, we have to take. So this is the ring earth system. This is the Faraday earth system. This is how we can protect our load, and this is the various metallic structure and services inside building to be bonded. So if all the water pipes, telecommunication, electricals are not bonded, so there is a leakage current which will ultimately rust your equipment inside, which will damage your equipment. So I have finished. If any questions are there, I am ready to answer. Thank you.
Mr. Adas Tiwari. Hello.
So, hello.
This
Hello.
is P. Narasimha Rao, retired from DRDO. I got one question to you.
Sir.
I would like to know, particularly in the case of airborne equipments and all, are there any different standards, high voltage standards for mission critical and safety critical applications?
Definitely, sir. DO 160 standards. It has two sections. One is section 22 and 23. 22 is for the direct strikes, and 23 is for the indirect effects. So whenever any mission critical equipments are there, reliability standard is a different standards. So then reliability standard of mill will come into play.
Okay.
So we have different standard for the effects of lightning. However, reliability standards are different. So mission critical reliability standards are different. So that as a system we have to again test for reliability, what you said.
Generally, which are on the higher side, value wise, quantity wise?
Critical reliability are at the higher side, definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Dr. Veerabhadrao, retired from RCI. How to measure the grounding of my home?
So you have lightning arrestor, or you have a simple what you say power earth? Power earth is there. Which type of earthing is there? Power?
There is no lightning arrangement.
Okay. So you have a power earth. Power earth. That means one power earth is going inside your house, na?
That is connected to earth point.
Yes. So there is a one.
Okay. Recently, I faced a problem. AC wire got burnt, and the main wire started touching the body.
Okay.
Luckily, I went there with the a scooter which was having the neon this one, so I could observe, and immediately I thought that something has happened to the earth.
Okay.
Then
So,
so how to measure and say that this grounding in the house is proper?
so I will tell you, sir, there are two types of equipment. One is we called as earth meter. So, but earth meter requires disconnection of your earth, which is very difficult because your house is live. Okay. Now there is one more equipment which is called as stakeless meter. You can write this stakeless meter, which is very 10,000, or you can take it from lab also stakeless. So if you that is a clamp. So if you do clamping of that, like suppose this is your earth, and if you do clamping of that, leakage current will the value will come in that stakeless meter. So if the value is high, that means your earth has a problem.
No, that is true, but I cannot purchase that one. But how to measure? This is the coupling with the current flowing through this one. I can measure the leakage, but I am having only digital voltmeter.
So earth meter is the only, what you say, reliable.
No, not that. You are mentioning the specification in ohms only, not in
No,
terms
sir,
of leakage current. You never had uttered
no,
that.
sir, earth meter is there. Earth meter you can find out in any lab. Okay, sir. In even in colleges you can have.
I retired 20 years back.
From college. So
From
you,
the various which college is having it, you do not know other than notebook pieces. No college is having
the
any
earth meter is costing near about 5,000 rupees. No, it is not a costly. If you are permanent house, you can take that. That is the only solution, because that is a just a asset which you can have, and you cannot test like that. By that, what you say, screwdriver, that is a very improper way of testing. It is in fact risky also.
I agree. That's why in order to have the safety this one, I'm having the solution. So you are asking me to pay 5,000 and purchase that. Okay, I will follow your advice. Okay, thank you.
So any student, I would love to answer any student's query if any student is listening.
Very feedback from not there.
Anyone has any questions?
Unfortunately, most of the institutions are not teaching high voltage transmission or high voltage production courses.
Yes, this is very rare topic, but it is very important for all the electronics and electrical students.
They are not
And
teaching that.
It is not in the curriculum also. It is surprise. But if you are working on what you say equipments, definitely
Yes.
I feel this topic is very relevant for the students.
Yes.
There is one more thing, sir. Nowadays, we are having this earth leakage detectors.
Yes.
If it identifies there is any leakage is there, it will trip your supply.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
I think
So that is
one of the good.
So that is the
precautions one
protection.
every
Yes.
has to take.
Yes, that is the protection there in all the electrical equipments.
Feedback from
Okay, so there is a crude method of checking out your building whether it is having proper earth or not without spending money. As the gentleman told that he has got a digital multimeter at home. Then normally how you measure that from earth, neutral and live? You normally check live and neutral. So let us say it is 230 volt, and also now check with live with earth. Measure the voltage. If that is near to that is your earthing of the building is proper. So that is a good method, subjected to acceptance if you don't want to spend money. But if it is open, then in that case you will not get any voltage. That means your RC is having problem. You are not able to read between live and not getting any voltage. That means earth is disconnected.
Yes.
And again, as you told, that for proper checking of the earthing, anyway, you have to spend that money. But only as a safer side, check voltage between earth and neutral, earth and your live wire. And sometimes also people check between neutral and earth. But also if it is coming 0 volt, so there you have a doubt that whether it is open or closed. So these are the crude method normal people do at home, just to ensure that okay, a building is having proper earthing or not.
Very feedback from.
Sir, I think shall we call the session off, sir? I think it's wonderful,
Yeah.
sir. It's a wonderful, sir. You are coming back to IET for third time, sir. We appreciate your knowledge. We appreciate your interest to generate the Delta knowledge to all the students. So pathetic, sir. I also appreciate Kishan Rao Garu for having mentioned that students should be part of this. So pathetic. We have like 85 ISF branches. That is 85
Branches.
colleges that they are affiliated to IET. But only staff are coming. None of the student is showing any interest. I don't know how we would like to generate that interest in the student. Since this is 52nd, but you hardly find any students in any of the sessions, sir. It's actually the crux of the webinars is to make sure that the IET student fraternity would develop. But ultimately, it's so happening that we are improving our knowledge and students are nowhere to be seen. But anyway, we still pursue with it, sir. I don't know whether we would reach the goal or not, but we have to do it for IET plus the student fraternity at large. But anyway, sir, it's wonderful. And I thank both Kishan Rao Garu for having come and expressed his real point of students should be part of it and nowhere the students are being found. And Anupam Tiwari, sir, this is the third webinar session to us, sir. And thank you very much for your affiliation and element that you got with the IET, sir. And we also appreciate the presence of many stalwarts here, the Tata Sudhakar, Thakre sir, Padmanabh Rao sir, Bhatia sir, Lakshmi madam is here, and Borkar. When we also have Narasimha Rao sir asked a couple of questions. Venkateshwar Lu, Christopher John, Yogesh Kundalik, Dr. Veerbhadra Rao again, Ranganathan Garu, Borkar from Goa is also part of it. I don't know from where Naik is, but it looks like I am seeing him for the first time. They also asked a question. Looks like he also answered for it. But Geeta Vardhan madam is here, one of our the advisory committee members, Sarvesh Raj and Sairam Garu. So I thank all, and Christopher John also is here. He's on and off getting into the webinar session. Looks like his web is getting him or probably throwing him out of the webinar session. So thank you very much. Again, we'll meet. We don't have a webinar session next week, sir, as we have a AGM. So I think we'll again catch up the first week of July, sir. Thank you very much, one and all, and have a wonderful day and wonderful. Thank you.
Really excellent talk, very informative and useful, especially for not only student. You said in the beginning it will be useful for the student, it is useful for the working professionals also.
Yes.
Yeah. And not only working professional, even the people who are sitting at home, how to take a safety home also.
Sir, lots of electronic equipment and lot of assets are wasted because of the small protections.
Yes, small.
And it is a harmful effects as well. So at least students and the subject to be taught in all the colleges, which I feel.
It has to be there. You see, when we talk about electrical engineering and other things, it is a part of EC and other thing. In fact, there should be some special session they should also have. In most of the colleges, they do have this so-called provision of invited talk and other thing. I think beyond the syllabus and the four walls of the class, something has to be done for the student community. And especially faculty should come forward to attend certain things so that I can't give more than what I have. So naturally, I should get empowered with additional knowledge and then impart to the student. And then only motivation and learnability can be.
Sir, I have seen few electronic equipment which cannot be switched on if the earthing is not correct. If the earthing is not correct. So that means we cannot utilize that equipment if earthing is not correct.
No, even we want to philosophically we say even
But
we want to,
unfortunately, most of
even we want to catch the stars or we have to reach the moon, and instead of our feet has to be there on the ground. Then
Yes,
only
yes.
we can achieve. So that
Yes,
grounding has to be perfect.
Yes,
We should
yes,
remain grounded, humble, polite, and everything. Then only we can achieve something.
yes. And it is applicable for the equipment also.
It is applicable. See, the grounding has to be first. Until as the grounding is there, because every reference is coming from there.
Yes.
If that is not proper,
So that was a
the ground is not
philosophical,
proper.
that was
If
a
the ground is
philosophical
not
point of
proper, the plants will not grow. It will never give the fruits. So grounding
Yes,
is
yes.
very important. Prepare
So
for
that
the
is the
nice ground
philosophy.
and then move further. I think you have done a good job making the ground good grounding for this type of subject so that people can be empowered and it will be fruitful use of that.
Sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Diwali.
Thank
Nice.
So that was a philosophical point of view, sir.
No, it has to go hand in hand. I don't know why we keep it aside. Both have to go professional life. See, I normally used to say, better half of your professional life.
Yes, yes.
It has to go hand in hand.